Shirt.
Yeah.
So the T-shirt that I'm wearing is for this band called Boys of Fall.
Huh.
Like I've been crushing on these guys since they're like right out of high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
And then like I went to
Wow.
the show and like I thought like we got there early.
Yeah,
I got the
yeah.
tickets like I had the tickets in my calendar like bought them like off the rip, and like I show up to the show. I swear to God, the stage was like the whole like room
Yeah.
was probably like that's the stage, probably as wide
Yeah.
as my countertop, and that
Yeah.
was the back of the room. That's how small
So
it was.
wild.
It was.
Not
I was
that
just
way.
like. And like I was like crushing. I was
Yeah.
like a little schoolgirl. Like,
Were you headbanging?
take my foot. Like, I asked my wife to take my photo with them.
Oh
Like,
my
I bought their
God.
T-shirt.
I
I got
love
their
it.
autographs.
I love it.
They're looking at me like, yo,
Whose dad is this?
yo, he's up on the gas, man.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's like, well, whatever you're on, can we have
Whoa.
some? Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, mom's an abstract painter, and
Right.
she feels her way through life, and she taught me to do so
Yeah.
as such. Like
Yeah.
the TV was the devil.
Facts. Yeah, yeah, no.
I'm talking straight facts.
Yeah, son of an immigrant. Like, TV's like,
Like,
no, do not.
Yeah, we eventually like filibustered to get a half hour a week.
Yeah.
That was it. That was it.
Yeah.
So then my mom though she was just like, but look, I bought all these art supplies. What are you gonna do with your time? Are you just
Right.
gonna stare at that wall, that TV
Yeah.
that won't turn on?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna get the watercolors out? Are you get the clay out? Look, I just bought a new clay cutter. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so nice.
Love already.
Yeah, so I grew up doing art, and my mom is like, she's kind of like Professor Trelawney.
Okay.
You know, like she just like says some prophetic shit every now and then. It makes you like question everything else she says. Like, she's
Love it.
telling the truth, and so I grew up doing art, and that's what I will always like first and foremost consider myself as. And I think that's like probably the reason I've had a really hard time with web development is that I've never looked at a framework or like a language and thought like what is the depths of this. I've always just been like it's a medium of expression.
Yeah.
Like it does something. I'm gonna learn
Right.
how to make it do something.
Right.
So, but this takes a twist.
I like twists.
I was an ROTC in high school,
Oh, that. Okay.
and I was the captain of the varsity graphic team. I took second in a New Mexico state shooting competition. And the Marine Corps caught wind of this. And like, hey, young fella, you wanna swing on over and
They
jump in?"
scouted you
Yeah.
straight out of high school.
It was and so I had a whole thing lined up. I was
Yeah.
gonna go to basic, and then right after I was gonna go to sniper school. And to this day, I would still join the Marine Corps if I could.
Yeah.
But the reason that I want to join, because people ask me like you have asthma.
Yeah.
Like, you could join the Army, you could join the Air Force. And like the reason I wanted the Marine Corps was because they appreciated valor.
Yeah. Right.
And I,
So that's-
so like I came back and I was like, I can't do this.
yeah.
I might be lying to you, and that's why I want to join you guys, because there's a sense of trust here. So I went to school for poli-sci. I actually I got into the school. So I got into the University of New Mexico.
Yeah.
But I got waitlisted from Loyola, Maryland, which is where I went to school.
Shouts to Loyola.
Yeah, Greyhounds.
Yeah.
That's why I know that 301 number.
Yeah. Right.
I saw,
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
The 301 area code is wide spreading.
it's wide.
Yeah.
Not as small as a 410.
Wait, you're not recording it, are you?
What?
Are you recording?
I am. Well, I mean, it's live. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's recording. We're recording.
It's lit.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought it started at 1.
Baby, this is not that kind of show.
We're very casual.
We are very casual. So,
Collar spots.
I
Okay, well.
I took a. I found out like 2 weeks before that I got in,
Yeah.
and I'd never been to Baltimore. And so,
Yo, what?
and so,
Okay.
and so I take a red-eye flight, and I land at BWI at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And I call my French teacher from baggage claim.
Yeah.
Because she would bring over like exchange students from like Sierra Leone
Yeah.
and France, and so she was
Love
I mean
that.
she was kind of like a mom, you know, and she's like I woke her up and I'm like, okay, I'm here, like how do I get to the school? She's like, okay, you take a super shuttle, it's gonna be on the second floor. I'm like, what's a super shuttle? And so I show up to my exact first day.
Yeah.
Okay. Right from the airport, put my bags down, and they give you that like welcome pack and like here's the campus. And you know what I did?
What?
I marched from my freshman dorm to the president's residence, and I banged on his door. This is Jesuit school, mind you, and I was raised Catholic, and I had some questions. And who better to ask than the president of a Catholic school? So I banged on his door, and I said, "Do you have time to talk? We got to talk about this soul and conscience, because there's a few discrepancies in that book you're always thumping on."
Yo, I love. Oh man! All right.
So
Brave.
majored in poli sci. I focused on Chinese politics. Spent a year in China.
Okay.
Didn't even come back for Christmas. Like I stayed there.
Yeah.
And I was arrested twice.
Yeah.
And then I ran around like wrapping women in it.
Yeah.
One of which was Tiananmen Square. Looking back on it, slightly ill-advised.
The anniversary is like just passed.
Slightly ill-advised, but there I was, just like, no, I'm just gonna wrap this woman in a giant ribbon. It's cool.
Yeah. I'm sure that went over very well.
So came back, having found that I had no stomach for Chinese politics. Smang, over there, it's a Tuesday.
Right.
Couldn't deal with it. It's like, no, okay. I'm gonna go to New York, and I'm gonna get into film.
So,
So that's the logical next step.
yeah.
So I got to work on all sides of the camera. Probably the biggest claim to fame was I was the production coordinator for a Gym Class Hero shoot.
Whoa.
That was a lot of fun.
Big things.
It-
Big things
ish.
go on.
Ish.
No,
that
it's all
was as
relative.
high as
It's
it
all
went.
relative.
I do have an IMDb, and it's strange because it's like for like one of like this
Whoa.
like probably the smallest shoot.
Hey, no. IMDb's solid. I'm just like waiting for the day that I get on Wikipedia. That'll be way dope.
It was for this. Do you know Matt Damon? No, not Matt Damon. I'm just gonna look myself up.
One of the Boston guys.
Monkey Sandwich? I don't think so. Fish Gun, yes. I don't know why I was listed as Monkey Sandwich. Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon.
Different.
Yeah.
So it was like a Funny or Die. Like this guy was like, instead of a fishing rod, he had his like M60 that he was like shooting into the water. We shot it at Staten Island. It is like Boy Scout ranch.
Staten Island Lawless.
Oh, it's the Wild West up there, man.
Yeah, no.
It's between Jersey and New York, but it's not.
That place is so wild. I'm like once like
I can't believe how fucking big it is.
I had to take a ferry to get there. I was like, yo, dog, what is out here?
Yeah, it's
Absolutely
its
not.
own little country.
Yeah. I had like an uncle like way back when I lived out there. I was like, why are we going out here? I gotta drive to a place, take a boat to another place. I'm like, all right.
It's very, very
I
strange.
don't even like boats. But,
So that didn't work out. All that Weinstein nonsense is precisely the reason I left. I was like, I had to fire somebody because she was black and ugly, and I was like, I will put up with your long hours and your disrespect and your no pay and all of that, but like that no.
Yeah.
No, that
That
is it for me.
That is a mile step too far.
Fallback career, graphic design at a fine art antique auction house.
Okay.
Owner is on the FC's Roadshow.
Yeah.
His name is Lark Mason.
Good show.
He just looks. So he's a professor of Chinese antiquity. I'm just gonna show you his image. Like, look at that. Look at that.
Look at that mug.
Doesn't he just look like?
I dig the bow tie though.
Oh, that was his thing.
Yeah.
There was like only once or twice that I ever saw him without his bow tie. Once was when I spent Hurricane Sandy in his apartment because I was on the Lower East Side, knocked out.
Yeah.
And he was like, "I need you to come supervise the website." So I did.
Fun.
And so that's where like, hey, you make stuff look good on computer. Websites are on computers. make our website look good.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, logical progression.
So we were running a WordPress install, and that was like, and so that's how I got hooked up with General Assembly. Is 'cause I took a General Assembly course,
Oh.
and then I went on to TA it, and they're like, "Yo, you like talking to people? We're launching DC.
Yeah.
Go down, set up shop."
Yeah.
And that's where I scouted Johnny.
Yeah. Damn, that's how you.
I straight
I like this
I straight up
story.
cold called him.
I like this.
Yeah,
Not even like cold tweet.
no, he had the naivete to leave his number. I think on his website, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I got you."
Ooh, damn, Johnny.
Ooh.
Rookie mistake. Rookie mistake.
Yeah.
Nah, good damn.
No, so what's your origin story? From I just gave you a long list. Of
Yeah.
mine, so
all
I
right.
want you to go deep.
Let's start from the beginning. So I was born in Mali,
Oh.
West Africa. You know, like in the little cute part of Africa, landlocked. Left when I was 1. Moved to Montreal, Canada. Was there for 6 years. Moved down to Pawtucket, Rhode Island, which is not that great. It's nice in Providence. We look across the river and see Providence, like they're rich over there.
Good distance.
Yeah. And I was there for a year, and then I moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is similar to Pawtucket, and you just like kind of drive through it on I-95. And then I moved to Silver Spring, Maryland in 1999. And I've been in Silver Spring, DC in the meantime, Copenhagen for a bit, Mali back for a bit, and then settled back in DC in 2014. So 14.
Okay.
So
And so, what was driving all these moves?
the early ones were my parents getting degrees. My dad did his PhD in Montreal, which is why we were there for 6 years. He did. I moved down to the States, and we're living in New England. Got a job down in Maryland, and that's why I moved down to DC, Maryland.
What did he master?
Statistics, and he got a PhD master's in public health, and PhD in statistics.
He's a smart man.
Pretty smart.
Well,
Now I'm just making websites, and he's just like,
he's like, "Hey,
what?
son.
Yeah.
What are you doing in your
Yeah,
life?"
yeah, no, it's great. I love getting phone calls from him. But no, can't complain.
Okay.
And then, yeah, like pretty much now that I'm like back in DC, just like I've been here since 1999.
Okay. So what? When did you know that you were a developer?
When I was a developer.
When did you know you were different?
Oh man, we all have our developing. So like growing up, I was like huge into like Angel, GeoCities and Angel Fire or whatever, just like making dumb websites. Made a bunch of like dumb Dragon Ball Z websites when I was like 11. It was wild. And
You were a Goku fan, weren't you?
man, Trunks and Goten.
I like Trunks was my guy.
Yeah, Trunks and Goten,
The hair.
the little ones. And I like got away from it when I was like 15. I just like took computer science or like a Java class in high school. Hated the teacher. It was real bad.
That can really ruin it for you.
Right, and I just stopped and got away from it. Got back into it when I was like 24. And then decided like, I was like coding for like a little bit for the marketing side for the startup I was working at, and then I realized, oh, I like doing this, and then I just kept doing it more, picked up some like work on the side, and it just like built up a portfolio, and then eventually got a job.
So what was your process then? Because I'm sure like a lot of people have, they could probably map their exact experiences to what you just said, but without your level of success.
Yeah.
So give me the nitty gritty, like when you're saying you were working on it, like were you just teaching yourself? Were you taking classes?
A lot of self-taught. So in the meantime, I was also going back to school because I hadn't graduated from college, or I hadn't gone to college yet. I was kind of like working
You were
here and there. Yeah. And I went back to school and decided that I wanted to be a journalism and computer science major. Covering all bases,
Just in case.
Yeah, right. This massive umbrella. And so I got my associates in computer science at Montgomery College in Rockville. And like I had like that under my belt, like took a bunch of like Java classes, took a few like web development classes, and that kind of like got the ball rolling. But I was like, in the meantime, I was like working on general Code Academy, Code School, and just like, you know, and like my developer friends who were too busy to work on like smaller stuff that wasn't like I usually work their time.
Yeah.
I'd pick up and like teach myself on the fly.
Yeah, and this is WordPress, right?
Mostly, yeah. Started off with WordPress. There were some Rails apps early on. Even Meteor. I don't know if anyone like still remembers Meteor.
It's still a thing.
Yeah,
it's picking up speed.
Meteor was dope. Like I love Meteor. And yeah, like ever since this was mostly just like like Meteor, Rails, and WordPress, and then been building up on that ever since.
Okay. And so, not really coming from a traditional, I guess, like comp sci path. Like, what's it been like then? Like,
definitely like I do think that my alternate path, like, I don't think it hindered me as much. So like with web development class, like CS classes don't teach you web development.
No.
Like you learn maybe Python.
Yeah, we have two comp sci majors in our as our interns, and they're lost.
Yeah, and like I was working at a startup, and like none of our developers had CS degrees.
Yeah.
One was didn't go to college. One like had a history degree. One had a statistics degree. And I think only the CTO had a computer science degree. Like everyone else was not CS. Yeah. So like that taught me that the resources are out there, and I can teach myself if I like put in the time and dedication. And like that's what I did. Just like a lot of like sleepless nights, but did that, and got to where I'm at now.
Like you can go really far in web development without a comp sci degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you smack into the wall.
Then
real hard.
Yeah. And then that's when like all like the theoretical stuff and a lot of just like a lot of server languages are like really hard to like master or like pick up if you don't have CS, but like the stuff is there.
Yeah.
You just if you do really want to go down that path, find people to like really walk you through it or just like help you out.
So what advice would you give yourself? Like if you could do it again and like with the time turn necklace, jump back and be like, what would you tell yourself when you were doing it again?
I would tell myself not to be afraid of like talking to people. Like web development is not a singular effort. Like you are coding alone a lot, but it is not a solo task. There are a lot of like questions that people, like a lot of people ask the same questions that you will end up asking yourself. You just gotta hit up Stack Overflow, hit up Google, hit up Twitter if like people are, like, if you follow enough like developers.
Yeah.
And like knowing that the answers are out there or like the people are willing and ready to ready to help is like invaluable.
Yeah. I think people learn development alone.
Yeah.
But it's not done alone.
Yeah, no, it is like it is a community effort. Like the whole open source thing is like community driven. Development these days is a lot of community driven.
Yeah.
And it like doesn't go forward or get any better without the help of other developers like doing it also.
It is pretty crazy to think that like the majority of the tools that we bill on are written by a bunch of people in their spare time for free.
Yeah, right.
The open source, at least it's just like, no, I'm just gonna do this for free. Like,
yeah, like I just want to do this, and then like it happens, like just blows up, and I was like, oh, like maybe I should like spend more time doing it. But yeah, I think that, like development is like one of those like singular or like unique things where that is the case.
Yeah.
Where like we all benefit from each other's, like footsteps.
Yeah.
Which is very helpful for like those like coming up. It's just you just gotta get over that first hump.
Now, did you have any mentors when you were coming up, or did you just white knuckle the whole thing?
A little bit of both. I don't want to say they weren't like whole mentors, but there were a lot of people who like I had that helped me along the way. Like no one like I was always too afraid to like sit someone down and have like walk me through it. But like there were a lot of people who like helped me out, like Ramsey, who I worked with at Include, Eli Fitch, who I like was like rolling in the same circles with. Um, some people like contactually where I was working at, like
Yeah.
definitely helped.
Yeah.
Eric and Sean, shout out to y'all. And yeah, they just like whenever I had questions, they were always willing to help.
Mhm.
So whenever like something came up or I just could not figure something out, they would like
Yeah.
be ready there to.
So did you
walk me
ever
through it.
actually seek a mentor at one point? Or like, I need a mentor, or like
I did
you...
not, but I wish I did.
Hmm.
It's just like one of those things like in my mind where I'm like I try to be
Mhm.
wild, independent,
Yeah.
and just kind of like figure out on my own. But no, like find like having a mentor would have maybe like sped up the process or at least like made it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Okay. So, are you approached now by anybody that wants you to be their mentor, or like how do you handle that?
Like I try to just be as available as I can.
Yeah.
There like no one has approached me per se to be a mentor, but I
Right.
have offered my help to people.
Right.
Like, hey, like I didn't have me when I was like going through this, and I would like to like kind of pass
Yeah.
this on.
Yeah, yeah.
So like I have friends who are like learning to code. I'm like,
Right.
hey, like I will help you through anything
Yeah.
if you need the help. And that's just like what I try to do.
Because like, I mean, the reason I ask is that I agree with what you said, where like we all could have benefited from having somebody shown us the way, and this is
Sure.
like there's like a weird like gatekeeping mentality with development. Like if you didn't suck this much, like then
Right. Yeah, you have to suffer a lot. Like people like seem to think that you have to do.
Yeah.
Like yes, it's frustrating, but you don't have it. Frustrating alone is way more sucky than frustrating with someone
Yeah.
like helping you out.
Yeah, and so I see that, but I also like, I mean, you've probably felt that too, where you're like learning to be a developer, being a good developer is not about how much you know, it's
Yeah.
what you can find out.
Yes, exactly.
And to that end, the most unhelpful advice I've ever heard a senior developer give me was to Google it. Because while that is what you're supposed to do,
Right.
you don't know what to Google.
Right.
You don't know what
Yeah.
the problem is. You don't even know where to look.
Right.
It's like a little kid coming to you with saying that my tummy hurts. You're like,
Yeah. It's like IMDb's right there.
yeah,
Or,
yeah. Did you try-
WebMD.
yeah. What are your symptoms? You're like,
Yeah.
well, what's that symptom?
Yeah.
So then I guess the question becomes like, if someone was watching this right now and they feel that frustration, or like they know what they want to say, just like somebody trying to learn a second language or third language, like
Yeah.
they know what they want to say in that language, but they don't have the vocabulary for it yet. Like,
Yeah.
so what would you recommend they do to get to that point where they either like succumb that, or they learn to ask, what's the right way to ask for help? I guess that's
Right.
that's the question.
Like for me, Twitter has been an invaluable tool.
Social media.
Yeah, social media, like asking, just kind of like putting it out there and like, hey, or I don't know, like how people would phrase it, like this and this, whatever. Has
Right.
anyone experienced this? Especially if you don't know how
Right.
to phrase something, like
Yeah.
humans are better at like deciphering
What do you
than
mean?
than Google is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because
So
like
you would literally have put what you would have put in Google in a tweet? Is that what you're saying?
close enough, or like I would be more descriptive because like it's hard to like be descriptive
Yeah.
when you Google search. You kind of get a little bit more wiggle room, like with like 280 characters now.
Yeah.
You can't do
Yeah,
that,
yeah, no.
so that helps. Just because like you just have more nuance,
Right.
with asking real humans,
Right.
like, or like if you don't have that luxury, like Stack Overflow is
Yeah.
very helpful. That like I still use it, and I will
I-
always use it,
Amongst us.
always and forever. Shouts to that amazing community. But yeah, so like if you can't ask people on like social media, like Stack Overflow is like the next best bet.
Yeah.
And like luckily now, Google will like pop up Stack Overflow to
Yeah.
like the top, but Google isn't always.
Yeah.
super
I'm curious, what's your like learning style? Like, do you do tutorials? Do you do video tutorials? Do you do like books?
How
How do you grow?
I will go through just like written tutorials. and like mostly just kind of like I do enjoy seeing um, like finished products and kind of like picking them apart.
Right.
Because I just you're right. I just love yeah. I just love like reverse engineering like item or like examples just so I can see like how this works. Like, what if I took this out? What if I did this? Just like poking that to bear and just like, seeing what like gets a reaction.
Okay.
Um, video tutorials I don't like particularly enjoy just because there's always a lot of like filler stuff to kind of get past. While they can be helpful, like I'm just like TLDR.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
but
you can
like
skim a lot faster
right,
in
yeah.
text.
But yeah, either like reverse engineering something or just like written tutorials and like going through there.
It's actually the opposite of me.
What is your stuff?
Yeah, I'm dyslexic actually. So like if you don't show me where it is, like that used to drive me insane. It's like on Stack Overflow because like they'll give you the answer. I'm like, where does that go?
Yeah.
Like, is that in the command prompt?
Yeah.
What file is that in?
Okay, so yes, that is like the most annoying part because like they assume so much about your knowledge that you have to dumb it down like as far as you can. Like this is where this is. This is where like example, I was like trying to install like Apache and all that so I can get like a local server running.
Yeah.
Like a local SQL server, and then like they were just like going through steps, and I was like, I have no idea where any of this is. Like, I could write some clean CSS, but like I cannot navigate the terminal to save my life.
Yeah.
So like then I had to like I need to kind of see where it's at, and then some like I was able to find tutorials that were way more helpful, but there were some that are assume way too much. I'm like, why would they be asking this if they know as much as you do?
Yeah, I mean we're at a bit of a golden age of like there's a lot like I think that there's a lot of maturity in the tutorial space now where there's a lot of people that are doing different great courses, and so it's way easier. And I think I don't know, web development as a whole is probably more pedestrian than it's ever been. I mean, it used to be the exclusive province of deep nerds, but I'm curious though, what do you think about there's a prevailing sentiment that coding is a young person's game. I wonder what you think about that.
No, like do not think that. There's like a weird ageism thing in web development where if you are older, you are seasoned. You can't be green if you're like older, which like you can learn that regardless of your age. But I think there's a thing where people think that the older you are, the fewer responsibilities you have, and like it goes back to like the whole you have to suffer alone and you have to spend all these hours alone, and you could do that while younger. And like by the time you get here, you can't do that, which is like what some of the older heads do, and they kind of equate that their own experience with what someone else can or cannot do.
Yeah.
But like resources have changed. You can learn, quickly, or you can learn like a more focused path and not like struggle through like you don't really need to know. But I think anyone of any age, like if you are, like willing to put in the time, you can learn it. It'll be there. It is frustrating, but like it's like another language. Just pick it up and you can get the hang of it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's like I've talked to a couple of people that they without divulging identities, they are on the older spectrum of being a developer.
Yeah.
And I mean, like even 10 years older than me, and they consider themselves older, but that's not my call. And they feel like coding is unavailable to them. But there's also like there's a general sentiment that there's too much to learn. There's not enough time.
Yeah.
But there's also like there is an element of discrimination in, and I've seen it too in startups and companies in general, is that they like almost like if I came in and said that I was a CEO of a company, I might get some eyebrows raised because I don't have enough experience.
Yeah.
But if I'm not, like, if I'm coming in and saying, no, I'm a developer and I'm north of 35,
Yeah.
what do you think about the discrimination in our industry? Like, where does it come from? I know it's a lot.
Yeah. I think a lot of it does stem from like the like people like the old guard
Yeah.
of development
Yeah, yeah,
got here a certain way
yeah.
that is no longer
Doesn't
that,
have to
that
be
doesn't
way.
necessarily apply anymore. Like
Yeah.
there are other paths people can take to
Yeah.
get to, not to there, but from zero to any level, right? And like whether it be ageism or whether it be, you know, like experience over like intelligence
Yeah.
or just like race or gender,
Yeah.
because you know the developers who like web is still new, technology, computers are still like newer, but like those people who did that are like old and white
Yeah.
men now.
Yeah.
And they don't see themselves in the people coming up now. So like that, they like seeing that just like upends the ruled view where,
Yeah.
of like what a developer should be.
Yeah.
And that is no longer the case.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I'm wondering, have you ever experienced any discrimination based on your own race in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I work in tech, so like, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you can name it microaggressions to, like feeling other,
Yeah.
like that, like has all happened. Like I've had meetings where I'd be the only developer in it, and they would ask developer questions to the non-developer who is a white guy, and I'm like,
Wow.
like I'm here
Hey,
for this. I'm here for this.
I'm your
Right?
I'm your guy.
Like, yeah, like there were 3 people here, like 30% chance, dog. Like, but yeah, like that, happens. Like tech is wild. But like the people that are coming up are more brown and more diverse than they have ever been. So like, it is definitely improving, and it's a great sign to see. Like go to conferences now, the speakers. Well, not every conference, but some conferences, some speakers are, more diverse. People like see themselves on the stage, and I like helps them realize, all right, I could do this. I could be a better developer or designer or anyone in tech really. But I mean, I think we're still a few years away from
That's fair.
real world change.
So then what advice to anybody right now watching? What advice to any minority or anybody who's woke and just wants to be a part of that but doesn't know how to affect that change?
Do realize or like know that tech there are inclusion groups in tech now. That I didn't have when I was coming up.
Like what?
Color Coded is like this like amazing Slack group that I'm part of. There are other people who are like actually run it, and I'm just like there, kind of like like
chilling.
Yeah, just seeing all the tweets or seeing all the messages, seeing all the links, and just kind of absorbing and just like having like a community of like people who want to do like really cool things in tech that do not identify as like straight white and male, who want to have like a safe space to like talk about their issues or just like talk to other people who would understand where they are at, like what their mindset is like. And that would have been like super helpful, just like seeing others like me and make those connections, think of them like if, my company were looking for a job, I'd have people that I had in the back of my head for a minute. Or, if you just want to like make friends that like in your industry that is predominantly, that doesn't look like you, where to do that.
I mean, that's like the Discord and the Slack channels have been transformative in that
Right,
experience.
like Slack's been super helpful. Not great for email chains, but great for making connections.
So it sounds like that a lot of your success to this point has been built on the back of social media, in a way.
I think so. I've been pretty good at like the social media.
Yeah.
And kind of utilizing it for either making connections and all that. Like I enjoy talking to people.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
just like meeting them. It's like you seem dope, whether or not like you don't need to be helpful through my
Yeah.
career, but you know, like we can just make this connection and like if anything happens down the line, like cool. And it just like I've been lucky enough to have been in the right spaces through
Yeah.
social media
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
have gotten me to, you know, like for example, include as a job and then, you know, making those connections like
Yeah.
got me to where I'm at now.
Yeah. And let's talk about the interview process real fast. The infamous interview process.
Oh yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the ways that you've been interviewed?
Um, I've been lucky. I have had gone for the jobs that I've gotten. The interview processes have been solid.
Yeah.
Um, um, there have been some jobs that I've interviewed for that had more antiquated interview questions
Yeah.
and just like they were looking for a specific type of person that I was not. They were looking for like someone for like that had a very specific type of education.
What's a question of like that example?
Man.
Like
Um,
like classics, like
yeah, like your
computer
classic
science?
like bubble sort.
Okay.
Like I know what bubble sort is, but like
I don't even know what word is.
oh man.
And I
Google it. Yeah. Ask Stack Overflow. But like it's been so long that I've ever had to deal with it. Like I could not answer this question
Yeah.
anymore. Like without like having to Google it. And like those are like you don't have to know everything
yeah.
to like be good at a developer, which is what the questions like
Yeah.
really want from you.
Yeah.
Like the better questions I've had have asked me to problem solve.
Yeah.
Whether or not I get to the right answer, like how I got there, has
Mm.
been more helpful than what I've
So,
got.
so that's a better way to ask an interview question.
Yeah.
Is to ask them to solve a
Right.
problem.
Yeah. Because like different schools teach different things. Like
Yeah.
you might not like cover all these like crazy, not crazy, but like all these like bases that like that computer science programs
Yeah.
or whatever will
Yeah.
teach you. But like to be a developer, you need to be able to solve problems,
Mm-hmm.
and if you do that, the rest will fall in line.
Yeah.
You know, you can learn on the job.
If you were to do it again, would you do it at boot camp?
I don't
Because you're
think
you're
so.
self-taught.
Yeah, I'm self-taught. I don't think I do boot camp. I was told not to because I think I knew too much to do a boot camp. Like part of me needs like a little bit of like structure to learn something, which would help for the boot camp. But I guess it depends
Sure.
like what your learning style is.
Right, right, right.
Like I can use some structure, but I can also spend 6 hours just like going through courses on like code school, and that's just like how I
Yeah, that's how you learn.
I think it depends on like your learning style, but I do not think. I think I would have gotten more being more self-taught than like going through boot camp.
Gotcha. I definitely got a lot out of. I mean, I did a General Assembly part-time course, and just it's one of those things, in my opinion, where there's like one or two things that's hanging you up.
Right.
And just being able to ask it and have somebody explain it and like see that confusion in your face and know they got to explain it a different way.
Right.
Like my example was, and looking back on it, it's pretty funny. But at the time, it was so frustrating. It actually reduced me to tears. I could not figure out what the difference was between a CSS class and a CSS ID. And conceptually similar, or we're applying
Yeah.
styles. One can only be used once, but we don't really know why.
Right.
And I just couldn't figure out like
Right.
why.
How do you
it
ask
was
that?
one. Yeah.
Like how do you like Google this?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And so I think that's what boot camps are good for. It's like if you don't know what you're even like, what question you should be asking, you know that ambient frustration that you have.
Yeah.
You know what you're butting up against. Like the number one question I get asked. So I still teach, and the number one question I get asked is like, okay, well, how do I put this on the internet? And you're like,
yeah.
So you just coded this, but let me introduce you to DevOps.
Yeah.
Which is just like, and that's a different ballgame. It's like if you don't even know about hosts or DNS or A records, how are you gonna look that up? How are you gonna know to look that up?
Yeah. You can't really ask those questions, like, which is why having people like it doesn't have to necessarily be a mentor, but like having someone to ask is worlds helpful.
Yeah.
I was lucky that I had people in the company that I was working with that I could ask, or just that like former colleagues who were like helping me out. But like,
so let's dig into this a little bit because say you found a way to have a side mentor.
Yeah, there's like a Rolodex of people.
Yeah, you had people. Yeah. So like I think like a lot of the anxiety that I had. Actually, Jesse was one of my mentors.
Yeah.
And so like I would reserve my questions for him far and few, and only if I had only spent like a week trying to fight it. Like, so what would you say to somebody that theoretically has your number, has your email address, and knows that you're gonna be willing to help them, but is really anxious about emailing you?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Because I was also worried about like asking anyone for help.
Yeah, like you don't want to use that up because that's like this one time, but at the same time you're fucked.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a really good question. If I were the one asking, so sorry, is your question like if I were like me now helping them?
Like if it came like if they actually asked you and they explained after the fact that they were really worked up about asking you, they were really embarrassed to have to ask you, and you look at them like, why are you embarrassed? Like,
no, I would explain this to like I have been in that situation many times before. Like not to scare them off that like this will be your perpetual state, but that like we have all been through this. Like this is like not unique to you. Like we are here to like hopefully pass down any sort of knowledge to you, just so you suffer less than we did, and hopefully like accelerate your growth. But yeah, like I think I would just try to be as helpful and like as available as I can.
Yeah.
Because like it's stressful to ask. Like you cannot.
Really is.
You do not want to belittle them, put them down for asking what they think are sometimes dumb questions. Excuse me, which is like something that I grew up like fearing and thinking like all questions were dumb. Like no question is dumb. That's like a whole old cliche, but that is true.
See, I think there's something else going on here.
But,
not with you.
Oh.
No, I think that when we get mentees asking for questions, I think that there's how do I phrase this? I can't put my finger on it. I can feel it, I can smell it, but I can't see it. But there is a role that mental health plays in web development that is kind of like, we all know it's there and it's unspoken, but anxiety and being a web developer can often that can fan some flames.
Yeah. Like if you do not have like a support group like with general anxiety, like that will
you convince yourself you're stupid.
Right. And that will also kind of like is part of the whole like what's that word? imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like you just think
Yeah.
you don't, like you know it, but you don't think that you like actually do.
Yeah.
But like yeah, no, anxiety is a tremendous thing in web development. Just because, like, the more I talk about it, the more that I realize that development mirrors real life in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Where like anxiety is like you just gotta tough through it. You know, you're gonna slog through it. Like you can't get here until you, you know, you earn your stripes.
Yeah.
You don't have to, you know, because it is stressful and it is difficult, but it doesn't always have to be.
Yeah.
And learning to cope with that anxiety of not feeling stupid when you ask questions or like feel like you have too many questions. Like none of those things are concerns. We've all had all those questions. Like even now, I still feel dumb like asking questions. Like, you know, like why doesn't this such and such do this like work with CXS? I've been doing this for like 4 or 5 years, and I still have questions that are stupid. But like,
yeah, especially if you're self-taught, and I don't know if there's any like path where you get all the answers, but if you're self-taught, you grow in like patches.
Right. Yeah. Like,
And then there are parts that you don't ever visit again, but then they come up and you're like, I never learned that.
right.
I don't know what that is.
So yeah, it is not. Yeah, it is a very like just like zigzag path or circular. You will learn things like whenever they come up to you.
Yeah.
You know, there's no like, you know, you learn that CSS transforms work weird in Firefox, and so you like do it for like SVGs, but like until you get there, you don't really know. So it's just like you learn on the job.
Yeah.
And you will have those questions like as you build things, and just, you know, keep it up, and you will have those questions, and you will be here to answer.
So this is what I think the dirty secret of web development is, and this actually ties into a story that I have with a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
So Jesse Shaw. So there I am. So no shit, there I am. Looking at my computer, been fighting with it. I don't understand what the problem is, and if you're a new web developer and you want to ask for help, you want to do it proper, you do a bunch of things first. Like you try it yourself. Like you Google some stuff, you try those examples, you try to replicate it, you get the whole thing, and then you explain to the person you're asking for help, this is what I think is happening. These are the things that I've tried that haven't really worked. Here's my code that you can replicate yourself. Like what's wrong? And I like moved my computer. Like I was sitting next to him, so I worked up the courage to ask him. And he just kind of like looks at it and just goes, you know, beep boop boop, and just fixes it like, bam. And I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed, and I just like, in this like moment of humanity, I just kind of like slumped in my chair and was like, Jesse, does this ever get easier? And he looked at me, and he just like kind of like whipped his hair back a little, you know, like not
those flowing locks.
not like a flow, like just like, you know, just shake it from his shoulders.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, it does get easier. And that's the thing about web development is that it's like a treadmill. You never get off, because the better you get, the harder the stuff you work on.
Yeah.
And so you just have to get better at dealing with that panic.
Right.
Because it never really goes away. Like if you're a senior developer, you get called over. Like that junior developer's probably been working on that code base for 4 months.
Yeah.
You don't know you haven't been there. You might not even know what project they're working on. But you got to go like you got to go and freeze them.
Yeah.
You in the 5 minutes.
Like,
you got 5 minutes to figure this out.
Let's do this thing.
Yeah, so that's like the weird thing about being a developer. And I think it's the dirty secret that no one tells you, is that you got to get good with not knowing and figuring it out. Because otherwise, like we go in, like we try to like study the shit out of something.
Yeah.
And then we go in, but here you just get tossed in.
Yeah. Like you never know anything until you come across it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm sure there are like, you know, adventure video games where like you don't learn skills until you actually have to use them, and like that's like how web development is. Like you don't know X until X like slaps you in the face for a few hours, and it's like, how do I solve this? And then you eventually come
Yeah.
across a solution, and it's like, okay, then someone else hopefully will come to you with like, I don't know how like what this is, and then you like
Yeah.
recall that, oh, this is similar to what I went through before, and then
Yeah.
help them out.
And so you work at an agency, so that's probably pretty similar. Where like you're constantly working on projects that you've never seen before.
Oh yeah, no, like half the time, like one of the things I try to do is like incorporate something that I haven't used before in a project.
Yeah.
And like in the current one, so that will always like keep me on my toes. But like just like regular development, like will the designer will want such a like this feature or like want to replicate this, and I'm just like I don't know how to do this yet, but I will.
Yeah, CSS Grid talking to you.
Shout out to CSS Grid. So wild. Like, it's like, it blew my mind when I was like, I could just like position things in literally anywhere, but now I'm just like learning how to like. There's the basic level, which I think I've got, but then
Yeah.
there's like this whole other level where you like truncate expressions where it's like, all right, like spanning. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, no, there's a whole thing like margin.
Yeah.
Margin bottom, margin top, margin
Yeah,
left, and then you just
yeah.
like you list them in a row and
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm still new to this, but I spent like a month and a half like learning CSS grids, and I'm still so much to learn.
And I think that's like that is the best part about being a web developer is that no matter how good you get, there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
I think a lot of other industries you can max out pretty quick.
Yeah.
You like I feel like that's the way it is with social media. Like I think there's a lot of complexity to social media,
Yeah.
but it is very much like a repetition game. I think there's a lot of industries that, but with web development, especially if you just teach yourself, you have the whole oyster in front of you.
Facts. Yeah. There's always so much. Like I will never get to like the end of JavaScript because there will always be more.
It's fucking changing, man, every single day. It
Yeah.
changes so fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you deal with front end fatigue? Sports drink.
Yeah. Maybe if you like run a few laps around the block, but I think I think I like trying to tackle similar problems with different solutions. And try like I'm a big sports guy, so I'm like hyper competitive, and I always just want to do something a little bit better, like at least different, just to see like what the effect is. And so like I don't know, like I'm trying to build out a feature, and I did it before, but I don't want to like just copy and paste my code that I did before. So I will try to do something a little bit different, just to see, is it more performant? Is it cleaner? Is it shorter? Is it more like readable? But that's the easiest thing for me to do. Or not easiest, but like the first thing I really look for to kind of try to like prevent fatigue, just because like there's just so much new out there, and just like picking and choosing, like knowing that you will never touch every single part of like everything that's new. Like I haven't like touched Angular in like years, and I'm okay with that. Like like you don't have to be. It is okay. It is good to be like current, but you don't have to be like latest and greatest, just because it is. It's exhausting. Like no one has the time for that unless you're incredibly privileged and like do very little outside of like having interests.
You have no responsibilities and or life.
Right. And like as humans, like we all have them.
Yeah. So we got to wind this down, and the last question I'm going to ask you here.
Yeah.
So I will ask you this. I'll give you my answer first. I will follow you. But
Lay it on me.
somebody someday is going to fire this video up, and I'm going to chop this up. So this is his own clip.
Okay.
Right now, not not like overall, but for you right now, what is the best piece of advice that you would give somebody about web development? And I'll give you mine first.
Yeah.
And this is the best advice I can give based on the past year's worth of learning. And this includes like going from React to Haml and Sass, and my hatred of indentation based syntaxes.
Ooh, don't get me started.
And like I went to New Orleans for a CSS conference, and I said I've been teaching, and I've been trying to teach myself on the side, and like firing up static site generators. Like I've kind of been all over the place, and I think that this year's advice, I wasted a lot of time learning stuff that I didn't use. Just because everyone on Twitter is talking about it. It's the hot language to learn, or it's the hot syntax to learn.
Yeah.
And like if you don't use it, you can say you did a tutorial, you can say you know it, but if you actually don't ever get a chance to use it, then you blew a Saturday, you blew a week.
Yeah.
Like you just wasted $20 on a book. Learn stuff because you need it for something that you're trying to do, not because a bunch of people are making you feel like you're missing out. That's my advice, because I wasted so much time.
Pretty good advice. I wish I'd known that like a few years ago.
Right?
Yeah.
But those are the only ones you learn in blood.
Right. Oh man, a lot of fads I like followed. It's like, wait, we're not doing this anymore.
Like, yeah, and it waxes away so fast. You're like, oh,
yeah.
So I just never used that. I just spent a year learning it, and now we're not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
So that is my best, like, and that's just based on like the past year of everything that I'm doing, and you're just like, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Like I'm like learning this like very recently, so I wish I could steal that. But I think my advice to like a young developer is, it's okay to think that it's hard. Like it will be, but there are people there that will be more than willing to help you, more than willing to walk you through it. You're not. It's okay to feel that you do not understand.
Yeah.
Not understanding is part of the process. You know, like as they say in Philly, trust the process. But it will get easier like the more you know, but development it will be frustrating sometimes. But like you know what you sign up for.
You're so right, because frustration is part of our process, and in other industries it's one that you actively try to avoid and or mitigate.
Yeah.
And for us, we have to, you got to grab the blade by the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of trying to stop getting hit, you're just like...
Right, he's got, grab it, armbar, boom.
See ya. X.